Welcome to today's deep dive. We have a really special edition lined up today, specifically tailored for the construction business owners tuning in from the Scaling Legends podcast.
Yeah, it's great to be here. We've got a lot of ground to cover.
We really do. So for the record, it is Monday, March 9th, 2026. And today's stack of sources is just a massive, comprehensive daily briefing covering everything from global supply chain fractures to sweeping legislative changes and some rapidly shifting market pipelines.
The landscape is just moving incredibly fast right now.
Exactly. And our mission today is straightforward. We want to arm you with actionable insights so you can make those critical decisions and protect your profit margins before your competitors even realize the market has shifted beneath their feet. And I mean, the ground is definitely moving.
Oh, without a doubt.
Just look at the rapid fire shocks we're waking up to this morning. Diesel just hit $4.60 a gallon. Steel has jumped 20%. And the Senate just advanced the first comprehensive housing bill in an entire decade. According to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, the next 15 minutes could save your company real money.
It is an incredibly volatile morning, to say the least. The sheer velocity of these market changes is what really stands out to me. We aren't just looking at isolated incidents here, we're looking at compounding pressures.
Right.
When energy, materials, and legislation all pivot at the exact same time.
The whole system shakes.
Exactly. The traditional playbook for bidding and managing construction projects just gets thrown completely out the window.
All right, let's unpack this, starting with the immediate squeeze, which is energy. We are looking at a severe energy shock directly tied to the ongoing conflict in Iran. Oil has just crossed the $100 per barrel threshold for the first time in 3.5 years.
Yeah, and because of the major shipping disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, the ripple effect here at home is just staggering.
It's brutal. Diesel jumped 83 cents in just 1 week to reach that $4.60 a gallon mark. So if I'm a mid-sized commercial contractor listening to this right now, what is my immediate play? What do I do today?
You need to pull the telematics data on your heavy fleet today, like right now. We aren't just talking about reminding your crew to turn off their trucks. If your equipment idle time is creeping past that 15% threshold, at $4.60 a gallon,
It adds up so fast.
it does. That's no longer just a minor field inefficiency. It is a critical margin leak. You need to enforce strict idle time limits through your equipment management software immediately. And beyond that, you have to review all of your active project fuel assumptions.
And I imagine this is where contract structure becomes quite literally life or death for a project's profitability.
Absolutely. If you have fuel escalation clauses in your contracts, now is the time to activate them. Send the notices today.
And if they don't have them,
If you're bidding jobs right now and you don't have those clauses included, you need to seriously reconsider how you structure your applicant proposals. You simply cannot absorb an 83-cent spike in fuel over a single week and expect your contingency fund to cover it. It's just not going to happen.
yeah, that contingency fund will vanish overnight. And the squeeze definitely doesn't stop at the fuel pump. Let's pivot over to the tariff walls, because we're seeing unprecedented spikes in material costs across the board.
It's across all the primary metals.
Right. Steel mill products are up 20.7% year over year. Aluminum is up 33%. And copper is currently sitting under a 50% tariff.
What's fascinating here is the nuance hidden within these tariff structures, particularly regarding the Section 122 global 10% surcharge.
The one expiring this summer.
Yes. There is a critical timing detail that a lot of contractors are completely missing. That specific surcharge expires on July 24th of this year. Now, it's vital to understand that this surcharge doesn't stack on primary raw steel or primary aluminum, but it heavily impacts fabricated products.
Wait, so if it doesn't apply to primary raw steel, why should a standard commercial builder even care about this July 24th deadline?
Because very few commercial contractors are actually buying raw steel ingots.
Oh, right.
Right. You're buying fabricated structural components, you're buying custom I-beams, pre-assembled joists, metal decking. The surcharge hits those value-added fabricated products.
So it gets passed right down the line to the builder.
Exactly. If you're ordering prefabricated steel components right now for a late summer project, that 10% is hitting you right in the wallet. The strategic takeaway here is pretty stark. If you're bidding jobs today without material escalation clauses dinked into your contracts, you are effectively losing money before your crew even breaks ground.
It's a brutal reality check for the industry. You just cannot absorb a 20% increase in foundational materials and expect to come out whole. But while costs are skyrocketing, the pipeline itself might be fundamentally changing. Let's head over to Capitol Hill because we have a massive, sweeping legislative update to discuss.
The housing bill.
Yes. The Senate just advanced the Road to Housing Act with an overwhelming 84-6 vote.
That margin is incredibly rare these days. An 84-6 vote indicates broad, systemic agreement on the need for residential infrastructure.
What's really notable about this housing bill is the strange bedfellows it created. You've got Republican Senator Tim Scott and Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren teaming up to push this through. And we're not here to take a political stance on this at all. We just look at the mechanics. But regardless of where you sit on the political aisle, the mechanics of this bill are going to fundamentally rewrite the residential pipeline.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the first comprehensive housing bill we've seen in a decade. And it alters the landscape for residential contractors in three very specific ways. First, it streamlines environmental reviews.
Which is huge.
It's massive.
Yeah.
In practical terms, that means significantly faster project starts, less time tied up in bureaucratic holding patterns, and more time actually putting shovels in the ground.
It also unlocks CDBG money, that's the Community Development Block Grant Program, specifically for new construction. Because historically, a lot of that federal money was earmarked strictly for rehab and renovation projects in blighted areas.
Right, and that represents a structural shift in how federal funds flow locally. It's a vast injection of capital into the new build sector. Furthermore, the bill includes provisions that limit institutional investors from crowding out single-family homebuyers.
So the big Wall Street firms buying up whole neighborhoods.
It's exactly. For local and regional residential contractors tuning in, this essentially transforms your land acquisition strategy. It incentivizes the rapid development of new housing stock, backed by federal block grants, while actively clearing out the institutional buyers who have been outbidding local developers for the past 5 years.
That is definitely the carrot, but there is a very sharp stick waiting just around the corner regarding labor compliance. We need to talk about the Ohio E-Verify mandate, which takes effect in just 10 days on March 19th.
This is a looming operational threat that requires immediate attention from HR and hiring managers. The new rules are incredibly strict. All non-residential contractors in Ohio must use the federal E-Verify system for every single new hire.
But isn't checking work authorization pretty standard for state compliance anyway? Why is Ohio's mandate so much more dangerous for a business owner?
It's the enforcement mechanism. The state of Ohio is allowing anonymous complaint enforcement. Yeah. That means your direct competitors can literally report you if they suspect you aren't compliant, which then triggers a state audit of your hiring practices. When you consider that 34% of the United States construction workforce is comprised of immigrants, this becomes a severe operational hurdle.
It turns into a weapon.
Exactly. It creates an environment of intense scrutiny and the potential weaponization of compliance by rival firms bidding against you.
And even if you aren't operating in Ohio, you cannot ignore this. Ohio is being viewed as the template right now. Other state legislatures are already pushing similar mandates through their committees. If Ohio is setting a new standard for compliance headaches, it really makes you wonder how the U.S. market stacks up globally. And frankly, pulling directly from Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence report, the international dominoes are falling in ways that should serve as a severe warning for the domestic market.
We have to start with the UK. They just reported 3,950 contractor insolvencies. Construction has been the worst performing sector in the UK for 4 years running now. And the specialist trades, the subcontractors, are taking the absolute biggest hit.
Why is the UK market breaking so hard right now? What is the specific trap they fell into over there?
It comes down to contract structures in an inflationary environment. UK trades heavily relied on fixed price contracts. When material costs spiked and inflation hit, those subcontractors were legally bound to deliver projects at prices that no longer covered their raw materials. They essentially built themselves into bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And this is a glaring warning sign for U.S. subcontractors who might be over-leveraged or signing fixed price agreements in a market where, as we said, steel is jumping 20% a year.
Then you look at the Middle East. The massive NEOM project in Saudi Arabia, which was supposed to be the construction boom of the century, is effectively frozen. The line of gasity has been suspended after $50 billion has already been spent.
And that isn't just a distant problem for overseas conglomerates. There are dozens of major U.S. architectural, engineering, and construction firms that are dangerously exposed to that freeze.
Because they banked on that revenue.
Right. That represents a sudden, devastating loss of projected revenue for those domestic companies. It also means we might see a sudden influx of top-tier engineering talent re-entering the U.S. domestic market as those overseas contracts dry up.
We also have regulatory tech waves crossing the Atlantic. The European Union's AI Act officially hits the construction sector on August 2nd of this year, 2026. If you're a U.S. firm utilizing AI tools on projects with European clients, your compliance obligations are imminent. They are regulating how algorithms can be used in structural design and project management.
This raises an important question about the future of building and how global innovation is going to force the American market to adapt.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Look at Japan. Giants like Seikiri House and Daiwa House are aggressively entering the U.S. market right now. They're bringing factory precision, prefabricated housing to America, straight from a country that is arguably 40 years ahead of us on construction robotics.
They don't build houses out in the rain and mud. They manufacture them in climate-controlled environments to millimeter precision, and then they assemble them on site in a fraction of the time it takes to stick-build a traditional home.
It's wild to see the footage of how they do it.
It really is. Meanwhile, you look at Singapore, and the government there isn't just encouraging technology. They are legally mandating automation through strict labor quotas. They're requiring that 80% of all public buildings must incorporate smart technology by 2030. The global mandate is clear. Automate and innovate your processes, or you will be legislated and competed out of existence by foreign firms who already have.
Which brings us right back home to the domestic market pulse. Frankly, the signals are incredibly conflicting here. On one hand, FMI is forecasting a pretty bleak 1% growth in construction spending for 2026.
And you can see that hesitation reflected directly in the equipment market. Heavy equipment demand is entirely flat right now.
Because everyone's waiting to see what happens.
Exactly. Tariff uncertainty is driving contractors to purchase based on timing, trying to beat surcharges like that Section 122 expiration we discussed earlier, rather than purchasing based on actual strategic project needs. It's reactionary procurement, and it just ties up critical cash flow.
You're also staring down some terrifying funding cliffs.
Yes. September 30th is a critical date. That is when the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, expires. It's creating a severe funding cliff specifically for highway and civil contractors. The Associated General Contractors of America is so concerned about this pipeline drying up that they are currently spending $2 million just campaigning for its reauthorization.
Add to that the fact that $863 million in federal contracts were abruptly canceled in just 5 days recently, with electric vehicle infrastructure grants taking the brunt of the hit. The pain is very real out there. But it's not all bad news. Data center construction starts just hit an all-time record of $25.2 billion in January alone.
The data center pipeline is the undeniable silver lining right now. There is a $92 billion pipeline projected over just the next 6 months. These facilities require immense power infrastructure and specialized cooling systems. If your firm has the mechanical, electrical, or plumbing capabilities to pivot into that sector, the capital is definitely flowing.
But the chaos of all these conflicting signals, the tariffs, the fuel spikes, the legislative changes, it's causing real panic in the industry. Looking at search trends in Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, the queries are explosive. Construction estimating services near me is up 51,350%.
Oh, that's a massive spike.
It's huge. And searches for construction management software for builders and contractors have spiked 13,150%.
Subcontractors are frantically searching for jobs. They're trying to figure out 1099 independent contractor classification rules and desperately looking for management software. What that behavior tells us is that companies are drowning. They're realizing that their current back-office operations simply cannot scale to handle this level of volatility.
It sounds like a lot of companies are trying to solve complex structural chaos with frantic Google searches. So strategically, how does a CEO actually scale operations to meet this moment without just doubling their administrative headcount?
By shifting from manual oversight to strategic automation, you cannot fight 2026 market volatility with 2016 paperwork processes. This is exactly why platforms like Smart Business Automator exist. It's an AI platform built specifically to keep contractors from drowning in administrative burnout, allowing project managers to handle more volume without dropping the ball on the details.
Let's talk about the concept of operational scaling, because the features of a platform like that are exactly what these panicked companies are searching for. Take Smart Document Organization, for example.
Right. Think about how many billable hours your team wastes. digging through disjointed folders for site photos, updated plans, local permits, or daily field reports.
Endless hours.
A modern automation platform auto-tags and sorts all of that instantly. You ask for a specific electrical revision from 3 months ago, and it's there, just like that.
It also turns messy field reports and chaotic meeting notes into actionable summaries.
This is a structural efficiency upgrade for project managers. Instead of a PM spending 2 hours at the end of a long day writing up recaps and trying to remember who was supposed to order drywall, the AI extracts the key takeaways. It assigns action items to the trades and aligns the entire team. It allows a single project manager to oversee 3 jobs instead of 2, without that crushing administrative weight.
I think the schedule risk detection is where it crosses from a convenience tool into a survival tool.
It acts as an early warning system. By constantly reviewing schedules against daily field activities, the AI detects bottlenecks and budget variances early. Let's say a fabricated seal delivery is delayed because of that Section 122 tariff scramble we talked about earlier. The system flags exactly how that specific delay impacts your critical path and your budget. Gives you time to pivot before it becomes an unrecoverable disaster.
It even drafts responses to your RFIs, those endless requests for information that bottleneck your project managers, using your own historical project data, and checks compliance against the exact project specs.
And critically, it does all of this while integrating directly into your existing ERP, your enterprise resource planning and accounting software. That entirely eliminates manual data entry, which is where most costly human errors happen anyway. It acts as an AI project assistant. In a market where your margins are being squeezed by diesel spikes and your pipeline is being warped by new legislation, reducing overhead and administrative friction isn't just a nice luxury, it is the only way to protect your profit margins and survive.
It's entirely about doing more with the team you already have. Let's do a rapid recap of what we've covered today. The Iran conflict is spiking energy costs, meaning you need to enforce idle time limits and check your fuel escalation clauses today. Tariff regimes, specifically the July expiration of the Section 122 surcharge on fabricated metals, are making material procurement a dangerous timing game. The Senate just advanced the historic Road to Housing Act, which could supercharge new residential builds with federal block grants. And the Ohio E-Verify mandate proves that compliance traps, complete with anonymous reporting, are closing fast. Above all, to survive the compounding chaos of 2026, you absolutely must automate your back office to scale efficiently.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, connecting a few of these major threads. If Japan's hyper-advanced, robotics-driven prefab giants successfully intersect with the Road to Housing Act's newly streamlined environmental reviews and federal funding, could we see an overnight revolution in how American neighborhoods are built? And if so, will traditional U.S. framing crews find themselves entirely displaced by factory precision assembly within the next decade?
That is a fascinating and slightly terrifying vision of the future. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. If this analysis saved you even one bad decision today, make sure you subscribe, rate, review, and share this with another contractor or your team. And to get your hands on the tools we discussed today to help scale your operations, visit smartbusinessautomator.com. We'll be back next time with more intelligence you can actually use.